Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion. Catchy title, by the way, guys. Rolls right off the tongue. Sees George Stillman Jr. direct the life story of the legendary boxing heavyweight champion. It tries to tackle the full picture from childhood right up until his second comeback in just over 2 hours. We all obviously know Foreman and who he is, if not from boxing, then at least from the world of grilling. But when you hear about this project, it's natural to wonder, oh, I've never actually heard much about his life. Is there a dramatic story behind this, or beyond kind of being a foil for Muhammad Ali and selling grills? And with the likes of Tetris and Air in mind, part of me was really hoping that this would focus fully on it being about the licensing of his name on a series of grills, because those stories are the trend now that everyone's going for. And if for drama's sake, we'd have a scene where you had a suit yelling at him, George, you'll never be able to license your name to grills. And in hindsight, that's the movie that I kind of wish that we got. I want to caveat this because I'm not going to say too much positive things from here, but I would like to say Big George Foreman isn't terrible. It's the generic formulaic sports star biopic with all cliches and familiar beats to come with that. There's literally nothing to it, zero substance here. Nobody is going to come away from this saying that it's their favorite movie ever, but also on a base level, it's just forgettably and inoffensively bland if you don't think about it at all. But if you had to think about it, to say something like I do, Big George Foreman is strange, man. It's a biopic that I think thinks George Foreman is a lovable rogue who made the most out of a disadvantaged background that they think excuses his wrongdoings. But the movie that I actually saw kind of portrayed him as a bit of a naive idiot who was kind of an aggressive, confrontational dick to everyone around him because being bullied as a child left him with a chip in his shoulder, who played a key role in his own demise, and even the undeniably happy ending he had was a bit undermined because it was literally just because he needed the money. And biopics don't have to fawn over their central characters, but this is unflattering without being challenging. It's supposed to be a light, feel-good movie based about a likable everyman hero that ends up kind of accidentally doing a drive-by on him. The entire project seems half-baked and made without any love or care. It feels built by committee with a studio kicking around ideas because they needed a new project to generate revenue. They threw darts at a wall and they landed on, we'll do a biography about a sports star. And then they had a list of people on the wall who hadn't had a biography made about them, and it landed on George Foreman. So they just made that movie. A lot of it felt really lazy, truth be told. And a lot of biopics will give you a fast-forwarded view of the big picture, but then they'll focus the story in on a specific period or arc in the person's life that kind of best encompasses who they are or what they contributed to public life. This didn't even feel arsed to do that. They bit off way more than they could chew trying to tell his entire life story in 2 hours. So much so that it felt like a highlight reel or series of montages with characters just spitting out cliche dialogue. For example, I think within 15 minutes, we see him meet his wife, get married, have an affair, and be caught and have that marital strife. We barely know his first wife's name at this stage. I don't think she actually introduced herself. I couldn't remember if she did anyway, but we were asked to sympathize with her, but while also understanding at the same time that Big George is just a complicated guy who didn't know any better. The highlight reel nature of the movie makes even the big moments feel rushed. How do you, in the George Foreman movie, like if I was to ask you one thing, name one thing that George Foreman is known for, you might say grills, but you'd also probably say the rumble in the jungle. How do you make that feel not big? How does that arrive without a huge build-up? It just kind of happens. They just kind of fall into it. Muhammad Ali just kind of shows up, and then a few minutes later, they're fighting each other. And that's just because they have a lot to get to. I could be wrong, but I don't think they even said the words rumble in the jungle once. As an audience member, I had to Google to double check, is this actually the fight, or did they fight again? Or like they're in Zaire, they said that part, but again, I don't think they've said jungle or anything now. It was very strange. The plot seems to work backwards and feel so clean and sanitized. They need to give an excuse for George constantly fighting, so they show him being bullied and they manufacture reasons to constantly excuse him knocking other people out, even though there is no real excuse for knocking people out constantly. We know that he's going to put his name to grills in the future, so in the past they show him being constantly hungry and only responding to food. It's really eye-rolling and basic. They don't actually tell him and do the thing where it's like, you're never going to be able to make grills, George. But they do actually do Forrest Whitaker, who's, by the way, Doc Broda's character is the one believable and interesting aspect of this movie. He does actually at one stage yell, even if you train as hard as any man ever did, there's no way you'll make it to the Olympics, which again, not the kind of quote that people actually say in the real world. It's only the type of quote where it's like, if you need something to say before showing him then making it in the Olympics, which is exactly what the next scene was, that's the line that you'd say. Because the next thing is 1 year later, and there's George at the Olympics. If you thought about it for even a second, you'd say, that's really cringe, man. There's a better way of doing that. But it just didn't feel like anyone involved was arse enough to have that conversation, because it was like, let's just get out of here and get paid, guys. This is no one's finest hour, so let's just get on with it. The boxing scenes are not only laughable production wise compared to the bigger Creed 3, they don't even have a patch to the Rocky sequences of the 70s. At one point, they even just use real footage of one fight in the movie. So you're looking at it going, that's not the George we've been following all throughout. It's like, did you run out of money or something, lads? It's really poor form for a biopic. Keep the real clips for the credits and let your actors act. That's literally the point of this entire exercise. This feels like a movie made more because there was an opportunity to make a movie than because this story badly needed to be told, or because anyone actually involved wanted to tell it. There's a reason biopics focus on one specific aspect or period, because this doesn't have that vision or love. They try to hit everything, and in the end, they just hit nothing. Is this an awful movie that's going to actively annoy you in the cinema and antagonize you? No, it doesn't even have that. It's just a movie that you'd put on in the background and have as noise while you're scanning your phone because it's on Netflix and there's nothing else to watch. Unfortunately, the only word I can think of to describe Big George Foreman as a movie is lightweight.